get to Penn State, this one's going to be a little bit more depressing because Penn State, oh, they started so well. They started 4-0. They were up there with Nebraska. They lost to who was their first game? They lost to Texas A&M. We were just talking about them. Lost to Texas A&M first in the tournament. Then they lost to Baylor. And then Mike Rhoades' old team, VCU, he loses to them the final game of the tournament. Frank, you've seen Penn State a little bit this year. And what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately it's, they're trying to find their new identity. And with as many, new pieces that they have, I mean, granted, some of these guys came over from VCU with Mike Rhoades, but, ultimately, he's had his defensive prominence, right? I mean, VCU was 15th in defense last season, 7th in adjusted defense 2 seasons ago, 14th 3 seasons aago. But, we're starting to see that trickle in. They're forcing a lot of turnovers. But ultimately, it's how do these pieces fit together? So, yeah, they started 4-0, but none of those were against great teams. Their best win was coming over Morehead State. Texas A&M, not an embarrassing loss like we just talked about. Right. Butler, okay, that's an acceptable. Like we can deal with that. But VCU, that's kind of where, in terms of a ranking standpoint, you want a Big Ten team to win that game. But they're a team that's not shot the ball well from 3, but they're taking a lot of threes as well. Anytime you have, a coaching turnover, you have so many new pieces, it's just going to take some time to get things, up and running. I think come mid-season, this team's going to have things figured out, especially on the defensive end. They're currently 105th in KenPom, and that's just not what we see from Mike Rhoades. So I think that, given his experience, given his, prominence on the defensive end, we're going to see a much better product defensively and probably offensively from this team.
Yeah, I think the defense is there. My concern is the rebounding out there. They don't have a single guy averaging more than 10 rebounds per game, and they only have one guy averaging more than 5 rebounds per game. So when you have nobody averaging over 10, you'd like to see those rebounds distributed a little bit more. But unfortunately, they're just not getting the rebounds like they need to. So they are playing good defense, but I think they were kind of exposed against some better teams like Butler, A&M, and VCU to a certain extent, being able to rebound off of them. Burke, what are your thoughts?
I mean, last place in an 8-team tournament, that is beyond a rough outing. Especially when you end it on the team you used to coach. Right. Like that is so gutting. And it's last season they had a fun run in the Big Ten, but like Frank was talking, it's a whole new identity to the squad. And you had initially thought, and I'm sure Penn State fans were like, man, we are going to miss Jalen Pickett and the booty ball offense. But the most glaring thing to me has been just the drop in shooting that the absence of Seth Lundy and Andrew Funk has left. Like, those guys were incredible from beyond the arc last season, and they are desperately missed on this squad.
Yeah, I mean, Jameel Brown is the only one shooting over, well, I guess Dunn is shooting 40%, but the only one shooting over 40% from 3 on this team, and I don't even think he's taken all that many threes. So, it's definitely...
It's Lions lurking in the tall grass on the perimeter. It just doesn't scare you like it did last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I unfortunately, I'm a little concerned. I think you're right, Frank. I think by midseason, they'll really find themselves together. Unfortunately, the Big Ten, it's such a you can lose any night type of conference that even when they do start to get it together, there's not going to be any teams on the schedule. Maybe Minnesota. I know they lost to San Francisco, but San Francisco is generally an okay team. I don't put a ton of anything bad on that. But still, I mean, Minnesota might be your only one, and even them, I feel like, are a little bit better than maybe some people give them credit for. But just things not looking great right now for Penn State. If there are any positives, if there's anything good to look at, do we have anything, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, really, the addition of Wahab, I think has been fantastic. 134.5 offensive rating on the season so far. He's the one in there making the hustle plays. He's rebounding hard. He's playing really good defensively. And he's experienced. This is the 3rd team he's played for. It was a great transfer in from Georgetown. And, unfortunately, none of the guys brought in from VCU have really materialized offensively yet. Like I said, it's still a young season, but the emerging guy obviously as well is Kanye Clary, who's played really well. It's not shooting the ball fantastic, but in terms of the overall scoring efficiency, 105 offensive rating, and he's the most used player. Be really curious to see what happens. He's a little undersized for the Big Ten, but I think there's a little bit of Braden Smith in him, and he's got a little bit of moxie. to his game. So I'll be really curious to see how he continues to develop as a player.
And that's what we're used to seeing from these Penn State teams. We're used to seeing moxie. We're used to seeing guys who play hard and do kind of the little things that you need them to do. Ace Baldwin certainly does that. I don't know if he would be considered doing as well as he did at VCU. He's definitely making an impact, 14 points a game. He is only averaging 2 turnovers a game. He's kind of leading this team on offense in some ways, but you're right, Clary's kind of leading the points there. 16.7 points per game, so he's a leading scorer. But I think you're right. I think that, they can rely on Wahab doing those kind of little things, making those things happen. Thanks for listening to the Big Ten Huddle. Please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If this was your first time listening, we are the Big Ten Huddle. We cover all things Big Ten football and basketball. We have a long episode every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, all at 9 o'clock. So come in, check us out, get in the chat, let us know what you're thinking. We would love to have you join us and learn more about the Big Ten.